So over the past 6 months, I've made over 60 grand using this exact strategy that I'm about to teach you. This took me from struggling to land a single client and having the most unpredictable months to signing over 13 clients using this one simple strategy. Now, by the end of this video, you'll have the knowledge you need to sign your first client within 2 to 3 weeks if you actually implement what I teach. And I know this works because I've been in your shoes, struggling to make money with videography, hoping people give me referrals, and just sending out tons of proposals only to get ghosted. In this video, I'll break down exactly how you can generate attention from local clients who will pay you upwards of 6 grand just for a week of work. I'll teach you how to install a lever, aka paid ads, that way you can get clients on demand, as well as the exact offer that you need so you can get your clients results, that way they keep paying you. Now, before we can get into anything, you first have to start thinking like a business owner rather than a videographer. I first got into videography because I just wanted to make some money with, my camera, because I realized gear was expensive, but it wasn't until I actually started investing into my skill set in business so that I can market myself, brand myself, and get myself out there, that I was actually able to make good money. So you need to start thinking like a business owner rather than just a videographer. So instead of shooting, just random portraits or random car photos or just, random one-off projects, you need to start targeting the right people. Now, to make sure you're targeting the right people and actually working with business owners who can afford your services, you need to map out what we call an ICP, which is your ideal client profile. So this is basically how you're going to appeal to them, right? If I'm talking to, videographers in this video, well, videographers are going to listen, but I'm not going to get an audience of, random plumbers, right? So who you're speaking to and all your marketing, all your branding is going to speak to a very specific person. So if you're not, targeting someone, if you're not targeting a very specific ICP, then you're just going to be speaking to everyone, and then you're going to get people who are broke, you're going to get people who just want a free portrait shoot, random car shoots. You're not going to be able to actually make money from it, even if you're actually, getting more bookings. It's not going to be profitable. Now, when it comes to mapping out your ICP, there's really 3 things that I like to look for. You got pain, desires, and past mechanisms. So the reason I look into these is because these are the key things that you're going to be using in your marketing material that's actually going to speak to them. So again, if I'm speaking to videographers in my content, I'm going to attract videographers. If I'm speaking to specifically local service businesses in a location, guess what I'm going to attract? Well, specifically local service businesses in the location that I'm speaking about. Okay. So to do that, we obviously have to understand them. Otherwise, we'll just be talking to, the camera, but they're not actually going to resonate with it. So the 3 things, like I said, pain, desire, and past mechanisms. So pain, a lot of times in the local service business, for example, is like inconsistent months, as well as a lot of low quality leads. Most of the time they've hired an agency who gave them some bad leads from Google, and they're just, still relying on that, but it's not, actually getting them the growth that they'd hope for. Okay. Desires can be things like, lots of the business owners I talk to say they want to be the most trusted name in their town, or they want to grow the business, they want higher quality leads. Knowing that allows me to create content that speaks to their pain, speaks to their, desires. Okay. Lastly, the third aspect is, the past mechanisms that they've tried. So just knowing what they've tried allows you to talk about that and then use that in your marketing. So for them, a lot of times it's, Google, it's SEO, it's Yelp. They've tried these things and it hasn't worked. So then when you go to market to them, you can position your unique thing, videography and Instagram, as that unique mechanism to get to where they want to go, right? Because subconsciously, if they see an ad for, Google services or SEO, they're going to be like, I've already tried that, right? And then they're just going to write you, your brand, and your ad off because, like I said, they've already tried that. So knowing what their desires are, what their pain is, what their past mechanisms have been, allows you to, again, make the most targeted marketing material that's actually going to speak to them. When it comes to actually mapping out your ICP and understanding the niche, there's 2 things that I like to do that really help me understand it. Number 1 is just being in the niche, right? You have to take lots of sales calls, just live and breathe the niche. I was in it for a good 9 months. Is that short? Technically, yes, but it's longer than a lot of people. So, spending 8 months in the niche, completely obsessing over it, doing all the market research, taking hundreds of calls. At that point, I got pretty good at understanding the niche. So that's one way. Obviously, just stay in the game. But, to actually get started, the best way I found is actually ChatGPT, the deep research button. Okay. So you're going to ask it, give it a prompt like, do the research for me, the market research, identify pain, identify desires, and past mechanisms that they've tried. Make sure you press the deep research button. And what it's going to do is scour, forums, websites, do tons of deep research. It's going to take like, 20, 30 minutes. scour the internet, and it's going to give you a list of, things that you can use in your marketing material. So do that to start. I also have a Skool community down below, which I'll talk about in a second. I've actually done a lot of the market research for you. So if you want access to that, top link in the description. Once you've mapped out your ICP or your ideal client profile, now it's time to set up your Instagram so it's a sales machine rather than just, a page that you post some random photos on. Now, a lot of new content creators like to just post, random aesthetic content that they think looks cool, maybe because they got a new camera or they, trying a new editing technique. But what they think is cool a lot of times doesn't get sales, especially in today's day and age with AI and everything. It's more important than ever that you get results for your clients and that you demonstrate that you can actually get them, in this case, sales and revenue for their business. Otherwise, they're not going to pay you these premium prices. So the purpose of your Instagram is only one thing, is to make sales for your business. And you do that by building up trust and showing what makes you unique and marketing yourself via your Instagram profile. Now, a lot of people think you have to have like a big portfolio or, tons of work on your Instagram. But honestly, when I was doing this, I got to 18.5 grand as my highest month. And I did this without posting any work on my profile. It was literally just what I'm about to tell you here. So what you want to do on your Instagram profile is mostly Instagram Reels, okay? The purpose behind this is because most people, most videographers, most local businesses, they don't talk on camera, right? And the reason they don't do that is because they're scared, just like everyone else. It is uncomfortable talking on camera. I hate talking on camera right now just because I'm not good at it, but that's how everyone thinks, which means most businesses are not on camera. Most videographers are not even on camera. So by getting your face in front of the camera, by speaking to the camera, you're able to build up that trust and educate your prospects, your potential buyers, as to why they should buy from you. So to get started, aim for ideally like 6 to 9 posts just to get up on your Instagram to, again, just talk to the camera. You can take a look at my Instagram, see what I'm posting. There's lots of people doing this, but like talk to the camera. Don't be scared. If you're just gonna, sit behind the camera and not put your face on camera, this strategy is not gonna work. So you have to put yourself in front of the camera. I know it's, somewhat cringe. I always hated posting on Instagram, but that content got me sales. Okay. I'd hop on sales calls and they'll be like, oh yeah, I was watching your content and you mentioned XYZ. That totally makes sense. That's why I hopped on this call with you. Okay. So that content is there to break limiting beliefs and position your unique mechanism, your, marketing service as the option for their business. And it's there to explain why what they've tried in the past hasn't worked and why yours is the unique solution. Now, a big thing here is positioning your brand as local. Okay. They've seen so many ads for nationwide businesses who offer, Google services, SEO, Yelp. But what really catches their eye is when you're, filming content, speaking to the camera, and you're in their area, right? Maybe there's a local landmark that you film by, like something that's recognizable, and you speak to people in your area. So, for example, we'll talk about the ad in a second, but your ad could say, if you're a local service business here in, Santa Clarita, California, then listen up. Right? That's going to catch someone's attention. They probably haven't seen a lot of local ads in their local area before, which makes it unique. It catches their attention and allows you to get your message across in the best way possible so you can actually sell them. Now, since I recommend targeting local service businesses, most of them work outside, right? And this sounds subtle, but one thing I found that works really well is actually filming your content outside. So you can take a look at my Instagram. Notice most of them, they're me just standing outside talking to the camera, okay? They've seen so many ads for, agencies who have a similar setup to this, but that really doesn't speak to them, right? Imagine if you're on a job site speaking to the camera outside, in a construction vest, right? That's going to get their attention a lot more, and it's going to relate to them a lot better than something like this setup would. So just a pro tip, film your reels outside. You can also batch film them. So I'll make more videos about how I film the content, but all that to say, get reels up on your Instagram, 6 to 9 to start. Get those up. Make sure you're speaking to the camera, and that content should really just, like I said, break their limiting beliefs and position your mechanism as new, unique, and the missing piece that they need to get to where they want to go. Now, one of the best ways to look credible, in my opinion, is to get testimonials. So when I was doing this, it took me at least a good 3 to 4 months to get testimonials from my clients. So one of the best ways I found to build up that trust and that credibility before you've actually gotten your clients' results is to film a quick video while you're on site filming with them. So go take a look at my Instagram. Actually, I don't have them up right now. I used to have them up, but basically you just want to stand next to your client, set up the camera. If you have a second guy, have them film it. Otherwise, just throw it on the tripod and basically just stand next to them and just have a quick conversation on camera about their experience. So you can say like, I'm here with my client, Bob, on a landscaping job. We just finished shooting with him. Bob, how was your experience? And just get them to talk. And if you do that with every client, even if you don't get them results, which you should be, even if you don't, you can get that content up, get that on your page, and you start looking a lot more credible and trustworthy before you even have gotten them results in the first place. Now, once you get your Instagram profile set up, now you need attention, right? You need to get eyeballs on your business, on your page. That way you can actually make sales, okay? So we do this by running a Instagram ad. Now, when I first started, there was so much ambiguity around ads. I didn't know how much to spend. I didn't know how to run them. I didn't know how to do the targeting. I didn't know how to film them. So I kind of was, I had no idea what I was doing, but fortunately I was able to invest like over 25 grand into lots of mentors who have taught me different tips and tricks around, running paid ads. But we'll go into that in a whole separate video, but kind of just to give you a high level overview if you've never run ads before. Basically how it works is, we run them on Meta. Meta makes money from advertisers, okay? So advertisers pay to leverage Meta so they can, get their message in front of people, okay? So Meta makes money by the advertisers paying them, and then the advertisers make money by getting the attention, which these big platforms generate, okay? So paid ads are literally just an amplifier, okay? So if you have bad content, if you have a bad ad, if you have a bad brand that people don't trust, well, if you're just pouring fuel on the fire, you're just going to get bad results, and that's why ads don't work, okay? So a lot of this comes down to having a good offer, having a good brand, having, a brand that people trust, that they're actually going to reach out to and pay money for, rather than just a brand that's faceless, that they don't trust, that they don't know, and that they're not comfortable giving money to. Now, about 10 years ago, it used to be that, your targeting was what made your ads perform, right? You had to get very specific with the targeting, but these days it's 2 clicks, right? So it used to be the targeting. Now it's really important that you get the creative right? That you're filming the right ad, that you're speaking to the right person, that your creative is actually on point, because that's what does 90% of the work, right? Nowadays, most of the time when we're running ads, we just set open targeting. We don't do any targeting, and we let Meta find the right people. So it's very important that you have the right ad creative that speaks to the right people. And I'll show you a Instagram ad that I've found works really well across the board for videographers who are targeting local service businesses. So I'll throw it up on the screen somewhere here. This particular ad has made me at least 10 grand from, just running it. Probably more. I haven't done the exact numbers, tracking it back to this ad. But this one I spent like just over 2 grand. I can throw up my numbers from the ad account, but I spent a lot of money on this ad, and I've tested it with different variations, but I found this format works really well. Okay, so at the top, you're calling out the ideal client profile. Okay, so you should have already done this work, figured out who you're speaking to. Most of the time, if you're following this niche, you can just change it to your location. So local service businesses in location, okay? So call out your ideal client profile, and then in the middle, I threw I want to say it was 3 outcomes that they get. So, we'll film content, we'll get you leads, we'll, I can't remember what the third one was because I'm not looking at it, but it's up on the screen. Basically, we've got the ideal client profile call out. We've got 3 key outcomes, and then a call to action. Okay, so the call to action is DM me the word grow to learn more. And that just tells them, okay, click the link below. They shoot you a DM, and that's how you're getting inbound leads, traffic to your brand. That way you can have conversations with them and then book them in and ultimately sell them. And something I forgot to mention, you don't need to have a massive budget for this. You can start with anywhere from $15 to $35 a day, get consistent results, and just run that. Ideally, you can liquidate very easily. So you sometimes, when I first started running ads, I spent $200, liquidated it, got 4 grand back, and then I took all that money and dumped it back into ads. So that's why these ads work great. You can have them up within 2 hours. You're going to start getting inbound DMs on your Instagram, so you can have those conversations, book them in, and sell them. Okay, so once you're getting the inbound DMs, well, you obviously have to have a conversation. Okay, so we call this appointment setting. If you're not familiar with it, basically appointment setting is having a conversation in the DMs, getting their information, qualifying them or disqualifying them, and then booking them in for a call. Okay, so the purpose of appointment setting, again, is, like I said, to qualify them, disqualify them, but also to build up that that trust factor. Okay, so if you're having a conversation with them, right, they're going to trust you a lot more because they're talking to a real person. You're building up that trust with them. But the main purpose here is to sell the call rather than the the actual service that you're providing. In this case, videography and marketing. Okay. So that's probably one of the biggest mistakes I made, and that most people make when they start appointment setting, is they try to close the deal in the DMs. Okay. So they'll start giving out their prices. They'll start talking about what they do. They'll start, doing all these things that sell the service, when in reality, the only purpose of the appointment setting in the DMs is to sell the call. Now, one of the most important things that I found when it comes to appointment setting is speed to lead. So how fast you're able to respond to the messages when they come in. Okay. So usually if I can get it under about a minute, my booking rate goes way up, right? The reason behind that is because when people send you a message, they're thinking about your ad, they're thinking about the marketing that they just saw. Maybe they've just scrolled through your Instagram and they're seeing your marketing material, so they're hot, right? They're at that point, they're willing to have a conversation if you respond to them, okay? Now, if you give it, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a lot of times they'll click off, and then it could be hours before they're back on Instagram. And at that point, they've already forgotten about your ad, they've forgotten about your profile, and the lead quality just goes way down, and the booking rate goes way down, okay? So do your best. Ideally, this is so important. Like, it can literally cost you thousands of dollars by not having your notifications on. So make sure your notifications are on. Make sure that when a lead comes in, you're able to respond like that. Okay. So ideally keep it under a minute. I had my appointment setters try to get it within like 30 seconds. That was the only thing they're doing, is just like having their notifications on and getting to that lead as soon as it comes in. So trust me, it's super important. Speed to lead. It's gonna be a game changer as to how many calls you actually end up booking. So once you book them in on a call, you're actually not gonna try to sell them on that call either. Okay, what you're gonna do is what we call a 2-call close. So the first call is just to have a quick conversation to build up some trust, and then you're going to book them into a longer call. Usually that one's anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, and you're going to close them on that call. Okay. So I've experimented lots with trying to do a 1-call close. I've tried, just getting them on a Zoom call directly from the DMs. The problem is most people don't want to commit to a full call when they're in the DMs. Okay. So I found booking rate goes way down. And then also they don't trust me as much because they hadn't had that phone call. So trust me when I say 2-call close is the best. So you're setting the appointments in the DMs, getting their phone number, booking them in for a short call. I let them know on the call. I'll be like, look, I've got 10 minutes here. Just want to figure out about where you're at, where you want to go, the details that make up your situation. You ask them some questions, build up some rapport, get to know their business a little bit more, and you book them into the second call. Okay. Now the second call, that's what we call the closing call. So we've got the first call, which is the intro call. Second call is the closing call. That's going to be the longer call. So I'll make a whole video covering like how to conduct that call. There's lots of YouTube videos online already, so I don't want to go too far into sales here. But basically, intro call, closing call, I highly recommend a 2-call close. So I can't tell you how many hours I've put into testing different offers. I've tried, done for you, done with you, a mix of both. I've tried changing the price point. I've tried, so many different variables. And after, hours of testing this, after hours of speaking to other people in the industry, just literally hundreds of hours poured into this, I've come up with, in my opinion, the best offer. Okay. So what it is it's one Instagram ad, 10 short form videos, and then the sales training. So you're basically teaching them how to close DMs in their Instagram. And with that, I found it's the perfect balance of being able to get your clients results, but also being easy to deliver. Because you might think, okay, it's just, a couple of clients, I can deliver on that. That's fine. But when you start stacking these clients, you easily, very quickly get overwhelmed. I remember having to pause my ads because I had way too many clients all at once and I just wasn't able to deliver for them. So I found it's a perfect balance of being able to deliver, but also getting them results so they stay with you long term. So that's how we do it. I'll make a whole nother video breaking down how to deliver on it. But in short, it's, one Instagram ad, 10 reels, and then the sales process, teaching them how to basically set appointments in the DM. So very similar to what you're doing, you teach them how to do that. And that's just another selling point too. When you get them on a sales call and you'll be they ask you to explain the system, you can basically say, look, this system that we're implementing for you is the exact system we're teaching you to do, right? All it is it's one Instagram ad, generating attention, sending that traffic to your Instagram. Your Instagram is building up the trust with those talking head videos. And then you're, having them DM you, having a conversation, booking them in. Okay, so the same process you're using, that's what you're using for them. Okay, so we priced this at $6,000, right? For a lot of you, that's whoa, I've never even charged, $1,000-$2,000. So it might sound like a lot, but please trust me when I say do not go lower than this. I've tried pitching at $1,000. I've tried pitching it at $3,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,500. I closed one at $7,500, but I got a lot more resistance there. So I found $6,000 is a great sweet spot because, hypothetically, you can technically invest $3-4 grand into acquiring a customer, right? Let's say you're charging $1,000. Well, then your margins are way lower, right? You're having to cover your time to shoot. You're having to cover all the ad spend, which a lot of times you might spend anywhere from $300 to $1,000 to acquire the customer. So not having any margins, you're obviously not going to profit. So $6,000 is a sweet spot. Again, you'll probably think it's a lot, but trust me, you're providing value for one. So like when they start seeing results, like for most of these niches, all you need is to get them anywhere from like 3 to 10 jobs, depending on the ticket price as to like what they're selling. So you're probably operating under a different mindset. You probably think $6,000 is a lot, but for most local business owners, right, that's normal. That's just like, that's what they invest into marketing. So don't be scared to charge it. Please just try it. If you haven't tried pitching at $6,000, try it. Again, when I first started this, I was like, $6,000 for only one Instagram, 10 videos, and some like a Zoom call teaching them how to set appointments. I was very skeptical, but when you start seeing the value that you actually provide, you start looking at it completely different, right? All you need to get them is a few jobs with the system, and it already pays itself back. And then it's all profit for both of you from there. So trust me when I say charge $6,000, you'll get them results. Don't let your mindset around money impact you actually charging that much for your services. Now, pro tip, something that I learned a few months ago that's really helped me just close more deals is something called Affirm. So you can look into it. I'll make probably a whole nother video talking about like how I pitch Affirm, how I use this in the sales process. But what Affirm is it basically allows them to take out like a quick loan. So basically you can get paid the full $6,000 up front, and then they pay Affirm off over time. So a lot of times, they'll pay me full, and then they're paying off Affirm for like $500 a month. That way they don't have to tie up all that cash. They can put it into their own ads. They can, not have to put all that up front, but you're able to make the money on that call, collect it all, and then put that money back into ads. And it's crazy because like once you get one $6K PIF paid in full, then you can just, again, dump it back into ads, and that's when you just rinse and repeat. So Affirm is a huge hack. Like I said, I'll probably make another video on that, but basically you get that set up with Stripe, you send them the payment link, and then you just walk them through setting it up. It's very simple. The first time is always the hardest because you're like trying to figure it out. But Affirm is a great hack for pitching the price, especially when they don't have all the money in the world. So hopefully that gives you some general insight as to like, a general direction to take your video business. Obviously there's lots of, specifics I could get into, but just want to give you the high level overview of the strategy, because there's honestly a shift happening, 2025 and moving forward, right? There's videographers, and then you've got the revenue generators, okay? Videographers are just the people who create random videos because they look nice. Maybe they're good at color grading. They have the expensive gear, but they don't have the marketing strategy behind it. Okay, so videographers, they're going to be extinct, right? And you heard it from here first, right? If you don't adapt, if you're not generating, revenue for your clients, you're not going to be paid, and you're just going to get outperformed by people who are. Okay, so don't be a videographer, be a revenue generator, and use videography, use your marketing skills to be able to actually get them results. Okay, now there's going to be a lot of people who watch this video and then they go watch another video, right? So ask yourself, are you a watcher or are you an action taker? Okay, there's gonna be two types of people, but honestly, the people who see success take the action, they do what it takes. Like seriously, this is not that complicated. You need an ad, you need content on your page, you need to set appointments, book them in, and close them. So just to recap, you need to identify your ideal client profile, do some research with ChatGPT, get that down on paper. With that, shoot roughly 6 to 9 reels just so you have some credibility on your page. Get those up, get your Instagram ad up. Again, that's super simple. I didn't talk too much about the Instagram ad, by the way. Basically, it's just B-roll, and then you make it inside of Instagram stories. So it's very easy to set that up, get that up, and then start taking sales calls, ideally within like 1 to 2 weeks. Again, there's going to be the action takers and the watchers. Make sure you're an action taker. So try to shorten the distance from like ideation to execution. I've given you what you need to do. Now you actually have to implement it and take action and get results. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a DM or just leave it in the comments below. And again, shameless plug, I do have the new school community, which is a pre-launch. So part of the pre-launch bonus is going to be like the one-to-one calls. I'll help you script your content. We'll be training sales. We'll be doing the mock calls, campaign reviews, as well as lots of like resources. So we've got like sales scripts, DM scripts. Like this is going to be so packed, but there's lots of bonuses for the pre-launch that won't be available in the future. So top link in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.